At this point, you've succeeded in hitting 7 in a row on the low outer 2/3 of the club face at half speed and high and to the left. And be patient. 7 in a row is very difficult. I've always thought between 6 and 7 was the critical moment. You've probably found this yourself. And it's actually beneficial to start over if you fail. If you get to number 5 and get it wrong, start over, start counting to 7 again. And the reason is we're not in a hurry and we're building range of movement, familiarity, perhaps strength to a degree, certainly familiarity with the sound and the balance. And that takes time. You're modifying your body. So when you get to the point where you can hit those 7 in a row at half speed with just the waggle plus the hinge of the wrist, then the last part of the equation, to turn it into the same kind of swing that you were training with the wrong end of the club and brushing the grass, is to turn the shoulders. Now there's some sort of divergence of opinion about quite when that should happen, but let's say that it's as you pass your right leg, with essentially the wooden waggle being the beginning of the swing. As you add the wrist hinge is when you're going to turn your shoulders. And don't think that you need to go much above shoulder high with your hands. It's not necessary for this exercise. Once again, we've got the ball teed up higher than you might ever, even with a driver. And you're going to hover the club by the ball with the bottom edge of the club no lower than the base of the ball. And the ball opposite the second line if you divide the club into 3. Then at half speed, having wooden waggled, you're going to add the turn and hinge and hit the ball high left. And then you're going to start again, waggle, and then high left. And if you can get to 7, then it's time for us to move on to lowering and eventually eliminating the tee, swinging harder, always looking though for that high ball to the left, and of course trying it with other clubs. The purpose of this series, the Abject Beginner's Guide to Golf, is to prepare somebody who's never played before because they find it appealing, and I totally agree with you. It's a great game. Now, it's somewhat unusual in that the rules of golf, which are numerous, are applied by the individual. It's fairly logical. On a golf course, open terrain, lots of place to hide, and you're golf whizzing around into all sorts of unexpected places. If it weren't a function of honor and applying the rules properly by oneself, then the game would be unplayable. So you're supposed to know the rules because you might be 50 yards out in the trees and have to apply some rules on behalf of everybody else against whom you're playing, whether it's an entire field covering the golf course or the other 2 people who you're playing against. Now the rules, when I was a boy, were compiled into a small, very tricky to read book. There were many rules. Over the last few years it's been simplified, and I'm grateful. But even back then when it was more complex, it was very much more simple to buy the illustrated rules of golf because it had illustrations, photos, diagrams, and it explained it in a wonderful way. Now, I'm sure that online now it's possible to find all of those things without buying the book, but I like books, so I'm going to recommend it. Now, the first part of either the very old traditional small book or the illustrated guide or anything you might find now about the game is about the rules of etiquette, and they're not the rules of play. Etiquette is behavior. It's a French word meaning list. And it's a list of things that you're going to try to avoid doing mostly. The principal one is that the game is so difficult that we want to win, but we're not going to do anything that would make the game more difficult for our opponent. And so you stand where you're least likely, since we're often quite close to our opponents, least likely to put them off. You don't move your shadow, you don't make obviously a noise, you don't stand out the corner of their eye so that there's a part of their brain going, oh, what's that? And certainly not behind them. Also, you don't stand in front of them because a sideways ball will hit you. Now, the principal rule of golf is that you play the ball as it lies. And so when you're out 50 yards into the trees, If you have a terrible lie, you have a choice. You can either play it there and hope that you can punch it back out, or move it 10 feet with a swing and hope that the next one has a better chance. Or you can apply unplayable lie rules, and those are covered in the rule book. And I suggest that when you start playing, you'll feel more comfortable if you're aware of them. Putting is statistically 40% of your score, and that number actually holds true for almost all handicaps, from complete beginner all the way to scratch golfer. And so the putter is an important club. You hit it more often than any other club in the bag. I've over the years tried a few, but this is one I have a great deal of fondness for. It's an old Ray Cook. And I played probably my best golf in my youth with one of these, slightly bigger, but the same general idea. And what I want to point out is that there are all sorts of designs nowadays, but what matters is that when you set it flat on the ground by the ball and have a friend help you, the lines on the putters, and this particular type of putter has beautifully incised lines, makes it possible for you to aim the club, because there are two things you're doing with putting. You have to hit it on the line that you want, and you have to hit it at the speed that you want. That's it. And so if you can eliminate one of them from being a variable, you're really doing well. So get any putter that has really good lines on it, which a friend tells you, yes, you're aimed at the target when you think you are. Because some putters just visually don't quite work with our brain and eye. And of course, I'm fond of this because it's an aluminium headed club, which has a lovely sort of slightly subtler feel to it than some of the steel ones. Anyway, great fun, but there are thousands. Find the one that you can aim well and that feels right in your hand. And then we'll get around to learning how to aim, read the green, of course, and hit the right speed.